I am Jim.
And I'm Hisham. And this is
Quantumly
Leaping
Podcast.
Great. Okay, so now everybody knows that we're starting all of this season mostly from our homes because of what is going on and the crisis. This is why we're doing this remotely, not just to keep ourselves safe, but to keep everybody else also safe. And because we are in such crisis, we decided to talk most of our this season about the current crisis and what's going to happen after that. So today's topics are going to be about COVID-19 and technology and the importance of technology and how the role that it played into this crisis. So starting off, Jim, I know that you, since we get to know each other like 3 years or 4 years ago, it would be like 4 years ago, and you started to get more involved into the IT stuff and knowing more about it. And now you know a lot better, I believe, than before. And you got yourself involved, and you realize now, just like the world is realizing how important the technology is for working, specifically working remotely from home, and how is that affecting work. So can you just add to it from your own experience and how you personally realized how important it is? Like now, we couldn't do this podcast if we couldn't do it remotely if it's not for technology. So can you just weigh a little bit on that from your own experience?
Yeah, it's a great thing you bring about technology. I've been a network for a long time, so I'm used to going out to events and meeting people. So this last 4 weeks has been a transition time for me. I've done webinars and things like that, but doing this podcast like this was something going to be different for me because of the fact we're talking about how this is done. But I think I've the last 2 weeks especially, I've done a lot of webinars, either like this, podcasts, and because I want to be connected with organizations that I work with. There's a few of them, and also with friends and also family as well, which has been really cool to see my niece and my nephew here by video. And a lot of some of the work that I'm going to be doing here over the next few weeks will be involving using webinars and things like that with either new or existing clients that I'm working with. But again, I'm fairly comfortable with this. Like I said, I'm pretty much set up here, a nice area to work with here. And it's pretty been a seamless transition for me.
Yeah, and I believe this is also, I know that we're going to talk about the world post-COVID-19 in a different, but I want to just touch ground a little bit.
Yeah.
That it's like people are now, or businesses are now realizing that the classic way of going to the office, clocking in and clocking out and working, is not the only way to do work right now.
Yes.
Like you can clock in and clock out from home, and this is going to be your office, right?
Yeah. Well, I can add a quick story, actually. This week, I've been reaching out to make some of my connections. Well, about 3 people reached back to me who work in the banking industry. And quickly, what they told me is that they have their 2 monitors set up, their phones, and both of them told me, in generally, that it's been very seamless thing for them to work from home. And they were a little concerned in the beginning, they told me, that for that transition, but they've been very, how do you say it? They're very formatted in their day. They still dress up, believe it or not. They're not wearing, they're dressing up as if they're going to work, having their coffee, and really regimenting their time. Both of them sort of the same personalities. And another gentleman I spoke with who works with corporate clients but basically from home has seen the transition fairly seamless for him as well.
Yeah, I would like to bring also a very important point in here, because people like me who are into the IT business, and we've done a lot of work from home, many projects, we're like, I mean, like this is a little bit different because everybody's at home and all of these things, but people who work from home have like at least 85% of this thing covered because we've done it before. Now maybe the challenge is because their family is on, but I do want to also tell people that there's now a little bit of a challenge that since everybody working from home and many people have not done that before, it's important to say like, don't let work interfere with your personal life because now like everybody's working from home for the first time in their lives, and that's, I mean, like they might overwork or they might get their life interfered with their kids who are also sitting home because there's no schools and all of these things. So that might have a lot of effect. But I say like it is very important that when you work from home, just do it as exactly as you do it. Just clock yourself in, clock yourself out, take that 1 hour break or whatever. Try to balance between what your kids are doing and what you are doing. And once you're done, you're done. Try not to overwork or do something, and not to let that interfere in your daily life, as it is, because it's a dangerous thing. Because you're now working from home, and I think it's also going to affect in the future, which is we're going to talk about it maybe. But I do think it's going to affect how people are thinking about office spaces and rentals, right?
Yes.
I mean, like you work in a place like CSI and all of this thing and all of the spaces, but now you told me that a lot of this work now, you realize when we were talking about, can be done from home. So what is going to happen for those spaces?
Yeah. So CSI is a local co-working space that I been working at here last year and continue to use this sporadically. This has affected them tremendously. They have about 700 businesses just in one building for them, and a huge issue for them is that some of the businesses may not survive this. I was on a call last week, and it was just very stark, and it made me very real for me. This COVID-19 became very real for me last week. And I don't know what the percentages are, but it became very real. So there's a big struggle for that organization. They have 3 buildings here in Toronto. They have 2 in Europe. So their model is going to take a huge strain, especially people who are there. They do have an online. They have an online community that's thriving. But so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and I do believe there's another thing, another part of this is like some of those businesses who wanted to survive now are going to have to go online, and they're realizing, oh, you know what? We might not actually need the space from CSI or anything, because now we can do it all, and it's going to be like CSI or organizations like this is only for an example, but organizations like CSI, like or WeWork or whatever, might get a big hit because people have already moved their businesses online now. They're doing everything, and they're going to think about like, why should we pay? Everybody's now got used to it. You know, why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't we continue it that way?
It's a great question, and I think the co-working spaces here in Toronto, I've been involved in co-working for 8 years, so I can actually speak literally as an expert. I've been in since 2012. I was a community manager for a space for 2 years. I've been working with another space, Lab B, for 6 months, and then CSI. It is something that will affect them. I don't know the degree that's going to affect them, Hisham, but it will take a hit on the whole economy of the co-working space. For sure.
I do believe also I'm not just talking about co-working, also about the real working, like even companies who have a lot of space, and now they realize that, we might not need all of that space, we can do it. But I do believe that it's going to depend on the management of those businesses or those co-working places, because it's up to them now. It's up to them to rethink their business model and to even rethink their pricing, maybe even the rental business needs, because the rental spaces are very high pricing right now, to hire an office or to a shop or anything like that. I think all of that is going to be rethinked, and we're going to talk about it in details in another. But I just want to touch base on that, just to leave that, that point for our viewers, our loyal viewers, I would say, to think about it. And since we are talking about small businesses or co-working spaces. I think we also have to take in consideration how small or medium businesses or even government are now considering going into technology or online businesses more than they ever have done before. I've seen like a restaurant just near my house. It's a small restaurant, family run. They would just a restaurant that you just come, sit down a little bit if you want to take, or you just take and go. Now they're into Lyft Uber Eats and skip the dishes. They have never been that. I now see that you have a tablet and they're getting on. That was not, and a lot of small businesses are doing that. Even government, like I also work for a project with Ministry, and they ran out of VPN devices. And not just them, all the government have run out of devices because there is no place. Nobody expected that to happen, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Yeah. So my point is, like, you've seen a lot of small businesses. You worked with a lot of small businesses, and you just told me that that they're not into technology. What do you think about?
In my neighborhood too. I just like to dovetail what you're saying. Sorry, I interrupted. Basically, in my neighborhood here in Bloor Street West, between where I am and Spadina, a number of restaurants, and I have to tell you, many of them are closed. There's about 5 of them. And what they've done, they're inside, and they have 5 tables. All the tables are full of bags, ready for the door. I'll take a picture. It was unbelievable. So they've completely transitioned into a full-time pickup business, and they're busy, ladies and gentlemen. Busy. I'll post some pictures here. To answer your question, yes. Many businesses have had to completely switch over, but I think the biggest business that will be affected will be restaurants. Hisham and I did consult a number of restaurants a number of years ago, and respectively, one didn't make it. But it was unfortunate because he didn't want to do the Foodora and Uber Eats, and we tried to convince him, and fortunately it didn't work for him. But in a positive way, I think that many businesses have quickly snapped their fingers and says, we're going to survive and we have to do this. So it's a powerful example of the of the pivoting that these businesses have to do.
Yeah, and I've seen even the big corporations are now rethinking. I mean, like big corporations do have things like that. They were actually pushing working from home and all of that thing to lower the cost and make more benefits. But even them right now are realizing more of how the importance that is and how effectively that can have work on them. Like I am sure that businesses like Uber, for example, or of course. Also, those businesses that got really affected, like hotels.com or Booking or something like that, because there is no tourism right now and all of this thing. And these people are also having their businesses online. You do everything online and you just go. But I would also think about, like, what is going to happen to them, because their whole business model is based on selling tickets, selling hotels, and all of this thing. They should also think about other things to deal with. And technology helps them in that. I mean, like you worked a little bit for the hospitality business, right? And maybe you can chime on the market about that.
Yeah. It's definitely going to make them rethink. I think the hospitality industry. I did a couple of special projects in cooperation with the hospitality industry just this year, and this particular one was promoting the Northwest Territories. So we, we're bringing the Northwest Territories to people using VR glasses and online. So the amount of exposure was there, and I saw other ones as well. So that's going to deeply affect, and I think that's going to be another one that's going to be, I don't know how quickly it's going to switch. back into that. And some of these put a lot of money. Some of these, like Northwest Territories, Iceland, even the Canadian destination, Ottawa, Vancouver. There's a lot of commercials promoting those areas just in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as you said, I mean, like the internal what do you call it, tourism is going to grow up, because, we're going to get out of that, I know, but we're not going to get out of that like suddenly and everybody's traveling.
Yeah.
We're going to get that slowly, and I think international traveling is going to take a little bit of a time for that matter, but I think that's their time, and I was always telling them this. I mean, talking about Canada, because we're here, and this is a very beautiful country, and no one actually is taking care about internal tourism. So,
on a personal note, I just actually about 3 months ago interviewed with a company who I signed up with to do local tours here in Toronto, and I just got an email from them that they're looking to start that probably in August. So for me, it might be a strategic thing that I didn't realize how important this job was going to be. It's probably 3 days a week, and the role there was to take small groups around the city of Toronto. So I might be busier than 3 days a week. So maybe the local economy will take I don't know what word to use, have the opportunity to promote themselves locally. So for me, it might be personally, professionally, a good opportunity. So it might be something even Sham and I we've talked about this, but to do, because we do a lot of events here as well. I have some summer events that I do, so it might be an opportunity.
And you remember when a couple of years ago when I was in many of the parks here in Toronto, and I was taking pictures and posting them on Facebook, and everybody was, "Where are you?" And I was like, "I'm 2 blocks away from St. Clair's. I haven't left the country. I mean, I haven't even left town. It's inside Toronto." And a lot of people don't know about those places, I think. And there's many of them around the city, around the province, around the country. I mean, I think...
I'll add a quick story. So I do a lot of cycling here. I just actually... did a little bike tune-up on my bike. We have a lot of great laneways, so I take a lot of pictures of murals in the city and little things like that. People ask me, and I usually post the murals. Now people are saying to me, "Where is the mural?" Where's the cross street?
I face that all the time. And the other thing that I think also is going to change from the industry is like business, specifically in travel and tourism. Like museums now are giving tours. They're giving even free tours to let people stay at home. But I think maybe in the future these tours are going to be paid, so you don't have to travel if you can't.
You have to go.
You can say, what's their name? The Trolls movie is going to go premiere online. Because there's no cinemas now. Yeah. There are no theaters, so they're going to go online. Even Broadway is streaming a lot of their musicals online. I mean, like they are recorded, but all of that is like part of maybe the digital transformation that we're going to go through, and maybe a lot of this is going to be live in the future.
I think so. I think that's going to be the exciting part post-COVID, Hisham, is to see the transition, to see what happened. And we're going to be doing some shows, obviously, post-COVID, and I'm going to start keeping track of this with the help of Hisham. He's going to help me to sort of put together a little bit of a game plan. But this is going to be interesting to see which businesses, even in my neighborhood, not just globally, ladies and gentlemen, in my neighborhood here, which ones survived, which didn't. So I'm taking a lot of photos of my neighborhood and to see what's going to look before and after. So it's a good opportunity. We're looking at doing a little documentary here down the road. But yes, something to be visual, to be acknowledging. That's going to change.
Yeah, and I know that we're keeping on telling people about our post-COVID episode, but I think this is going to be a huge one because there's a lot to talk about, and I think we're gonna have a lot to consider. So speaking of also the role of technology of changing, I want to also concentrate on a specific role as well from the technology. I know that a lot of people have heard about AI or artificial intelligence, and how it's also changing the world. And this is very important, I believe. We nowadays we're seeing how AI is helping healthcare, for example, the healthcare sector. We're seeing that with the information sharing, first of all, from all around the world of the cases and all of these things, and the virus. This virus was isolated in the first few weeks after it got out, and now we know that there are two strands and all of these things, and AI is helping of analyzing the DNA and all of that. I mean, this is, and I think we're going to be closer to get a vaccine than we ever think. I mean, people are saying 12 to 18 months to be safe, but I am hopeful that we might have that, closer than that time. But you've been into a lot of AI meetups recently, and you're getting to know the technology. You read the book, I know.
Weapons of Mass Destruction.
Yeah, but I believe this time is going to be of COVID destruction. We're going to destroy that.
Yeah, so quickly, yes, Hisham actually did a TEDx talk last year on AI, and if you have a chance, please watch it, ladies and gentlemen. But the last 5 months, I have decided to take a more interesting look. So I'll share a personal story. I told Hisham I'm going to share this, and he said it was good because it's a powerful story. So Hisham's talking about AI. So we've covered a lot of events about AI over the past year. We did the 6th summit a couple of years ago, and there was a statement in the seminar. I'm going to mention the statement. So it was a bunch of healthcare professionals sitting on a stage, and one person says, "It may get to the point where you're going to order a pizza, and they're going to say, sorry, you can't order the pizza because your
cholesterol is too high.
Your cholesterol level is too high." And there was a gasp in the audience. I actually laughed because I thought it was kind of funny, but that's the truth. So another key point that we're going to dovetail in is modeling. So AI and modeling work together. So I started a project in October of last year, and these are the schedules for the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Raptors. And what I did, I was just keeping track of their games, wins, losses, okay, for both teams. Now, it was just a little project for me. It was started by a coach who was coaching the Leafs, now no longer coaching the Leafs, keeping the stats of wins, losses in 5-game increments. Now, I started doing this little pet project. So I mentioned it to Hisham one night, and he goes, well, hey, there's software out there that you can maybe predict what the games are going to be. So I got really excited, thinking a little pet project. Now, I actually plugged it in to a AI software, and it told me the potential wins and losses for both the Raptors and the Leafs. And then about 2 weeks ago, modeling was being used. Now, modeling, in very straightforward terms, is they're entering data segments of people who have COVID, who have recovered from COVID, who have unfortunately passed away from COVID, which is significant now, about 110,000 in the world, and all that. And what happens, there's a curve. And we're right now doing this show, we're at sort of the top of the curve. And the goal is to flatten that curve and start to go down. So we're at the top of the curve, sort of, depending which model you is.
The peak that we call it.
The peak of the curve.
Yeah.
Now, so I just read the Weapons of Mass Destruction. This is a really good book. There's a couple of chapters that I can probably do another show on that affected the school system, people who are actually looking for work. So I'm actually reading another book, and I'll do a little plug. I'm reading another book called How Not to Be Wrong with the Power of Mathematical Thinking. His name is Jordan Ellenberg. Ellenberg. And I'm just close, about 3 chapters in, but sort of the same premise as the Weapons of Mass Destruction, just a little differently. Powerful topics in there. So why this is important is that if you have a data points of whatever it is, sports or COVID, you can actually track and see what the probability of that. And AI is giving them the probability of what will happen with that curve. So maybe there wasn't big fans of AI, Shisham, maybe. I know there wasn't. Like, I wouldn't be talking about AI now. Last year, I wasn't talking about AI. Like, I know you're talking about it. But now I'm reading and learning about it. I can actually speak from experience and from a little bit of knowledge how powerful it is now regarding this COVID. So thanks for letting me share. But, just from a pet project now has turned into reality.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of other countries that have gone a little bit further, like in South Korea. They were also tracing people through their phones and know where they are. I mean, like China has done that. I'm not totally with that because it comes with some authoritarianism. But the South Korea model, for example, because it's a democracy as well, and they have done that to monitor the people who are quarantined. And they have done a large number of testing. They were testing like 10,000 cases a day. And all of this data, because the thing about AI, and everybody maybe knows that, is now what we call it data. Now, data is the new oil, because AI without data is nothing. We need a lot of data. And they have used that to flatten their curve faster than anybody else, in the world. And I'm saying in the democratic world, because China is a little bit different system. But in South Korea, I mean, this is a great model that we could learn from those guys, and it helped the healthcare workers. There was not too much on their healthcare system because we know where these quarantine people are. We're monitoring the cases. We know what they're coming off. There are also some AI apps. I'm not sure about the accuracy, but I think it's a good trials to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But that can tell you if you have the symptoms of COVID by monitoring the way that you cough or something like that, and tell you like this cough might be related to that, or if you give it information about fever or something like that, it tells you that you might have a COVID-19 or something like that. I mean, it's like, this is amazing,
Yeah, and I just to add that to Sham, yesterday I saw a report. I won't mention the news channel, but they were interviewing a CEO of a company in the United States who runs a huge plant. I think it's a steel plant. They have ordered. They will be tracking their employees via an app. They've bought the watches, and they will be. They have about I think 3,000 to 4,000 employees in one of the thing. They'll be monitoring their employees when they come back via this app. So it's here already, and I think that this, fortunately, in North America, ladies and gentlemen, privacy is a big deal. In the UK, in Europe, it's a little bit more of an understanding. Fortunately, North America, we're still nervous about it, and I understand why. But it will. I'm telling you. I'm going to tell you. I'm not guaranteeing, but I'm telling you that it will be a factor moving forward here in North America.
Yeah, I mean,
it will be.
We do have a special episode also about security and privacy, which we will talk about.
Yes.
But again, as I said, I don't agree with the Chinese model of monitoring everybody and everything and shaming people and whatever. We hear all of these kinds of things that happen in China. But what I'm bringing South Korea because it's also a democratic system, and because they made it clear that this is only for the people who are under quarantine. Because even here in Canada, we have just declared the quarantine law, or the quarantine law, because if you came from people who came from traveling, they have to be. It's not an option to them. So we're not actually invading their privacy. And Alberta is studying. Yeah. Alberta is also have very strict privacy laws, by the way, but they're studying to do something like that. Yeah. And they have legislations that this is only for that time, and we might destroy the data of their tracking data after we've done it. So there's a way to do it. That's my point. Yeah. But the thing is, it is how AI could help in managing that from a healthcare perspective, and say like, okay, because there's a lot now we see the Italian model, for example. A lot of people are dying. Healthcare, a lot of people in healthcare have died because of that, and we don't want to repeat that. And I believe technology and AI could help us into this. And while we are into the realm of AI, I want to talk about AI, but not just into the healthcare, because we touched on modeling. Like, it is also helping right now, even for governments, and not just the federal government, like in provinces or states or the lower or even the cities, on tracking the cases and saying, like, this is, okay, so this case or this province, like for example Quebec, have higher rates than anybody else. So the predictions say we should get stricter. This is why they get the military there. Like, and since you were enthusiastic about modeling, I'll let you, I don't know, chime on that. What do you feel about this, and how do you feel about the predictions are going to help?
I think in general, I mean, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I want to be very clear. I am not a doctor. I am, but I would be very clear. I'm not a doctor. But I can study two things. I can study facts, and I can study numbers. And I realize, ladies and gentlemen, that this is only two hockey team and a basketball team. But this is a great sample of what exactly it could help in a mass scale. My opinion is I think the governments have realized that it is important that they do this. The military is 80 kilometers away at CFB border right now, waiting for a command to come down to Toronto. Now, they haven't. In Quebec, it's worse. In other parts of Europe, because of Hisham and some other friends, the restrictions are much more deeper in other parts of the world. We have it kind of nice here in Toronto right now, per se. But all I can say is that it's become a serious thing, and it's going to be a huge discussion now and moving forward. And Hisham and I are definitely talking about this, and we will begin to monitor this. I will, for sure, and Hisham will, and see what happens. There might be some stats online down the road that we may get access to. But I think that this AI and modeling is going to be an impactful module for us now moving forward.
Yeah, and I want to also just mention to people that it's not when we mentioned about military and because we're not trying to make them afraid, but it's also the models that are not related to COVID, because, for example, we're now coming into spring, the snow's melting, and this is the flooding season. And because of AI, we know the models from the previous years, we know that we expect these, and from the amounts that it snowed in last year or let's say this winter, we know that we might expect flooding in those areas. And the military is trying to help building those, because city workers are all, like suspended now to prevent the spread of that. And our military is helping into that. And without this data, without this AI that tells them, these are the places that you might get more flooding, so you can concentrate on them. There's no military is going to cover all of that. Like they might build something like this on a place, but it's the wrong place. And flooding happens in another. And so like, this is going to be like really a messy situation for us. And AI is helping not just to model for the disease itself, but what is happening because of the disease. Like we said, the city workers are not there. This was part of their job. They cannot do it right now. The military is covering, and they have to know where to build those things. And also, when I'm talking also about like modeling, it's not just about the restrictions or something like okay. So if there's a city or a province like Quebec and Ontario, we have the biggest things. Do we need more? How do we need to control the movements of the people, or how much do we need to enforce kinds of restrictions? That's another part of them. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about people moving outside, because we can move outside, but how how strong will be the social distancing. Like we've jumped from 50% to 5 because we were spreading too much, right? And this is
well. I also like to add. Sorry, I mean to cut you off. Sorry, but here in Toronto, we're having issues now with the weather. The local parks now, they have officers now giving tickets to individuals who are breaking social distancing. The cherry blossoms are happening here at Hyde Park, which is about 20 minutes away from where I am. They've blocked off the park. They've closed the area to not allow people to go in to take pictures of the cherry blossoms this year. It's a big deal. I mean, thousands of people go every year. So in
I was
Toronto,
there last year.
Yeah, this week, the mayor and all that, they have laid charges, ladies and gentlemen. They have laid charges to people for breaking the social distancing. And because the weather is good, not many people are out, but there was lots of traffic on Bloor Street today. There was lots of traffic today on the main. People are going shopping, but at night it's quiet. But it's a challenge to do that. And when you hear that the charges are being laid, that's not good. But it's hard because we're so used to being out, especially nowadays. People are ready to roll their tomatoes. No tomatoes this year, no garden this year, which is going to be weird. It's Easter this weekend. No churches. Greek Easter's in 2 weeks. Yeah. Again, no church. It's a tough thing even for our Jewish friends, with Passover. So it's affected everything. I can't tell you how. It's a very, very deep thing we're here now. It's affected everything.
And I want to just mention that I've heard Mayor Tory, and he was really angry the other day about that, and I've never seen him like this before. But the thing is, and I know that people are really upset. We have not seen anything like this before. But when the mayor said something like that, or the provincial government or the federal government, they look at data models and numbers, and they realize that if we let that happen, if we let everybody go to Hyde Park for the cherry blossoming, first of all, there is no way that you can actually do physical or social distancing as the way that you want to say it, but there's no way that you can do it properly for that matter. And when they look at the model of how many cases that we expect to happen, if we let these things or these events go like they were, or even with some restrictions, their numbers are staggering. And you know that these people also look at the numbers of the medical equipment that we've had, the healthcare workers that we've had, and how it's going to overwhelm people. So when they say something like that, I know that people get angry or pissed off at them. But as someone who worked into this, I worked with a lot of governments around the world and about data modeling for a lot. I worked with hospitals, with even a genome center, and all of this. And when you look at it from, I know that it's tough for people to imagine because nobody can have all of this kind of knowledge when it's not your job or your business. But I just want to tell them that this is real, and when someone from the government tells you about that, they're based on models, and those models are unfortunately really accurate because they're telling us what is going to happen. We know how dangerous is this virus. We know how it could spread. We know that at least one person could at least give it to 2 or 3%. So with only these information, we could build a model and tell us how dangerous.
Yeah.
Could it be to let everybody out?
Yeah, I had a friend, a mutual friend of ours, Shamazai. He lives in a building where there are a lot of people in vulnerable states, and one person caught it in his building. He took off. He went to his a relative in Mississauga. He's going to be in quarantine for 14 days, obviously, but he became very real for me about 3 days ago when I called him. And he told me, he says he's wheeling over there right now. I mean, because just one case freaked him out, because there's a lot of interaction between him and particular individuals in his building. So I'm telling you this, ladies and gentlemen, because it was real, because that was the first time sort of a community member potentially could get it. To see 108,000 people have died globally, and to see the pictures of the caskets being put into the ground in New York, it's a very tough situation, and it's becoming more real every day.
Yeah.
To see that.
And
so, sorry, I'm going a little negative, but
we're not trying to be negative. We're not trying to be negative. We're trying to be real.
No, but it's very real.
And if you look at the numbers, and I'm gonna post the link for this, the URL that you and I are watching since the beginning from the university, an American university, and those numbers. What I'm telling them is it's updated like every hour, and these are based on real numbers, the charts, and all of these things, and it's getting real. I mean, like, we have some provinces here started to flatten the curve, which is good news, but that doesn't mean that we just could go out and like, yeah, everything is fine, because it's not. The numbers tell us to keep this so that we keep on flattening. And again, thank God we have AI and all of this thing to give us very accurate prediction of what is going on, and it helped. Yeah. We can look at South Korea. I mean, this is the bright thing. We can look at the model in South Korea, and they say, like, they have done that. It worked for them, and all this technology helped them. All that, these procedures helped them. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and we can see it in South Korea. So this is a bright, but we have to do our work. We have to look at the numbers. I know it's not easy, but this is the times that we're living right now, and the more that we commit to this all together, the faster that we're gonna go out of it. So on that note, on that happy note and hopeful, I want to close. So Jim, any last words? Anything for our audiences?
First of all, it has been great to do this podcast with you, Hisham. At the end of the day is that technology, whether we agree with it, disagree with it, is going to have an impact. As I said earlier, online and offline has connected. And I have had to make some transitional choices, Hisham as well. And the premise of what we're trying to do with this show is to say that technology is making an impact in the global world in this 21st century. And we want to bring impact to that and explain a little bit. So I hope that everyone enjoyed a little bit learning about AI and modeling and some of the books that we've read. And you can go ahead and find those books. Weapons of Math Destruction is available at your local library. And it doesn't hurt to educate yourself. So with that, thanks for an amazing show, Hisham. Thank you.
Thank you. And last word for our proceedings. Goodbye, and we'll see you in the next show. Take care.
Take care. Bye.